Southern Baptist Conference versus Saddleback Church. Grudge match. Let's get it on. I'm Mark.
See, now I've got this picture of in my mind, in a black and white striped shirt. Like, let's get it on. That's awesome.
Oh.
And I'm Scott. All right. So, Collision Course 2022, Saddleback and the Southern Baptist. Who's going to win?
Oh, and I'm not even sure like how to answer that because I think we really need to drill down and define the word win.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure anyone's going to win on this nonsense.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and that's just, maybe me being a little bit too cautious. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Saddleback, church already had, ordained 3 female pastors, which was like a bad thing to do in the SBC, but it wasn't like officially condemned.
Right.
So the SBC decides that, we need to condemn this now officially because, we need to make sure that our regressive attitudes towards women are known to all.
Yeah.
And, and then now like this new pastor, he's just like, yeah, my wife. Yeah. She's a teaching pastor just to
Right.
give the SBC a unexpected proctology exam, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. There's something inherent in modern American Christian culture that that hates the words liberal and hates the word progressive. And I understand why people hate the word liberal because there's a political slant to it, right? If you're liberal, then you're not one of us. You're not a conservative like us, right? So I understand the Hatfield and McCoy aspect of that, right? I always found it interesting that Christians hate the word progressive because the opposite of progressive is regressive. And who in the world wants to be regressive?
Well,
like
no one.
in what world is that a value? Is that some sort of virtue to be regressive,
Yeah, I mean,
That's the part I don't get.
and like the terrible thing is that like they're not going to like really say that they're being regressive,
Mhm.
except that when the changes have already happened and you're trying to
Yeah.
rewind it,
Yeah.
then you are being regressive because you're not
Right.
trying to preserve or stop change. You're trying to reverse change.
Right. Like this is kind of like a semantic thing,
Mhm.
but like some people believe that words create value when really words are a way of communicating ideas efficiently from one person to another or from one person to multiple people, right? It's just to get one idea from my head to your head. I might use a flashcard one day. I might use, pictures or smoke signals. But, nowadays we use words. And so it's really interesting that we choose to use words as a way of painting a picture of women as equals as bad, as minorities as equals as bad, as immigrants fleeing from tyranny as bad, instead of actually reading the words of the Bible that show us that these things that we've described as bad are actually the things that Jesus asks us to get behind and not describe as good or bad, but just to complete the mission,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that was really weird. That I'm really sorry about like that roundaboutness there. But yeah, like we keep calling things as bad, but when we read our Bible, clearly like these are the things that we're on mission for,
And like I want to like take this back to the Bible just
Yeah.
briefly, and I can't find the verse because I'm a monkey here and I don't know how to use my phone quickly to find things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul is writing to, and I want to say it's the church in Corinth,
Uh-huh.
and is saying that like I do not allow a woman to teach a man,
Right.
and actually that might have been Romans. Who knows? I'll have to try to remember to look that up. But like,
Do you mean First Timothy? I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over a
yeah,
man.
that'd be it. Thank
Okay.
you. I remember what things were said, just never where they were said.
Right.
And like that's really where a lot of these, like these, churches, denominations, they kind of get off with this way of thinking. And like
Yeah.
it bothers them that women have any kind of leadership roles in society at all. And then like they use this kind of thing as an excuse for, to say that women can't be pastors because pastors are inherently teachers. I mean, they have to be more than teachers, but like they cannot be less than teachers either. Kind of borrowing from the language of Martin Luther.
Yeah. Can we just take a small break here because I think this is important.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right to use this verse, but I think I think it's important for us to teach what this passage is actually saying. If you'll forgive me a minute here.
Yeah, no.
So this verse that we use to bludgeon women with and say that you're not allowed to have authority in the church, right? That is 1 Timothy chapter 2, and that is verse 12, right? And verse 11 is a lot like it. Women should learn quietness and full submission. And so, so first they should be quiet, and now they're not allowed to teach and have authority. But let's go back a few verses and see what kind of leads us up to this kind of this teaching, okay? I want the women to dress modestly, inferring that right now they're being immodest. I want them to to with decency, inferring that they're indecent at the moment. Propriety, adorning themselves not with elaborate hairstyles of gold or pearls or expensive clothing, right? So, not being vanity, not making an idol of yourself, right? But with good deeds, appropriate for women who profess the worship of God, right? So you women that I'm writing to at the moment, right now you seem to be all about the looks and the presentation and what people think about you and how they perceive you. And what I need you to be what I need you to be about is the life that you live, the deeds that you do, right? And if you can't do that, if you can't like live this godly life, then you know what? Just be quiet. Just kind of sit down, and if you're not going to be the leaders in this way, then let the men do the leading, right? Because for the most part, the men are not doing the crazy hairstyles and the crazy makeup and the gold and preening like they're a bunch of runway models, right? And that's kind of where we're getting at here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting at women. You're not allowed to have authority in the church. We're at women. If you think that you're just a showpiece. Like, you are not all that. And it'd be nice if you just kind of sat down. That's kind of the heart of this.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. And not to mention, just like, from a point of exegesis, the words man and woman in Greek can also mean husband and wife.
Right.
And this, bit of scripture here is ambiguous as to what it means.
Yeah.
Not to mention there's just the fact that this is the thing written to Timothy. So Timothy is to basically be instructing the churches over which he's been given authority this way. And these were specific churches with specific histories and contexts.
Right.
We don't know, if Paul meant this to be like a permanent thing, or this was just, hey, this is how your church needs to be for now.
Right. And I would also say, I think if you're a man and you were kind of getting this instruction from Timothy, not to put but I think if you're a man in the situation, what you would also hear after you hear Timothy going to town like this, I think what you would also hear in your brain is, well, if I'm a man who judges myself and others by how many cattle I have, if I'm a man who judges myself by how many powerful friends I have, if I'm a man who is sleeping around a lot and not faithful to my wife, then maybe I need to sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that anybody who doesn't see the lesson in this for men just isn't reading. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the Southern Baptist Conference and other denominations like it kind of made their bread and butter of reading it this certain way.
Yeah.
And of course, it's interesting to see that Saddleback is kind of pushing the issue. Because in the article that I was reading, obviously Saddleback is taking this type of position that you and I take.
Yeah.
But this pastor actually said, I'm not trying to pick a fight with the SBC. like, but
Mhm.
you are picking a fight with the SBC, so it comes
And
across
there's
as
nothing in here. Yeah.
disingenuous.
Yeah. And it, like, also, like, there's nothing wrong with picking a fight when it's a fight that needs to be picked.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, I think this is a fight that needs to be picked. I think this is something that, Saddleback should dig their heels into, and I think ultimately, it's going to cause Saddleback to probably leave the Southern Baptist Conference,
Right.
and I don't know if they'll probably become an independent Baptist or something. I'm not really sure what path they would maybe go on. Um,
Yeah.
but it's kind of an awkward situation for me because it's like, well, on the one hand, I think it's good for you to do this. On the other hand, you know, the way you're doing it is I don't know. It seems like it might be overly aggressive.
And that's weird. I'm glad you mentioned that. It strikes me, the timing to me strikes me as very bizarre
Mhm.
because, like, if you're gonna pick a fight, wouldn't you want to pick the fight when you know you're strong? And don't you think you like wouldn't Saddleback be stronger if New York Times best-selling author, multimillionaire, church founder Rick Warren was at the helm of this fight, and not new guy who has no real equity or stakes in the game yet?
Yeah, no, it's weird, and maybe it's just because with in light of like the recent events with like the whole sex abuse scandal thing that the SBC had there.
Yeah,
Maybe it just maybe he's kind of interpreting like these events the same way like you and I are. It's like,
yeah,
well, like you're being too nice to women, and then you just have to be mean to them again.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I don't know, and it's not that I'm trying to suggest that the SBC is being nice to women. I don't think they are.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, 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 no chance of that happening.
oh, but it's just it's one of those things that kind of
Yeah,
boggles me because it's like I'm not sure how to react to it. Like on the
yeah,
one hand, the Southern Baptist Conference is like by codifying that women cannot be pastors, um, seems like just a jerk thing to do.
hmm,
But then like this response, like, when the Apostle Paul says, insofar as it depends on you, be at peace with one another.
hmm,
So what is this?
yeah.
You know,
I, f- I wonder if the thinking is like Saddleback literally has nothing to lose at this point, right?
mhm.
Um, on the one hand, let's say they lose the fight, which they probably will, right? Well, who cares? We just disaffiliate. We become our own, church body, and we don't have to keep feeding money to this denomination that we don't really feel a kinship with anyway.
Yeah.
You know. And then on the other hand, if we win, then we get to be the church that brought the SBC kicking and screaming into the, 21st century.
I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. But
Yeah.
I think ultimately, whatever happens, I mean, there's going to be like definitely some hard feelings in the aftermath.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how does this break the church?
Mhm.
I just had this one thought, and like church women have been a second class citizen in church leadership for forever, for as long as there have been a Christian
For
church.
sure.
They've been second class in leadership, even though fundamentally, like I think you and I probably agree that like all the important things done in church are done by women. They raise our children, right? They're the ones mostly at the helm of our kids ministries.
Hmm.
Once again they prepare our meals. They're typically the ones who prepare our communion times, right?
And they're
Like,
overwhelmingly not the ones sexually abusing our children.
imagine that, right? So like in this how does this break the church thing, the one thing that seems to be timeless is how the church continues to use women as bargaining chips.
Hmm.
Kind of betraying that once again we are a body of people who don't really act and live our lives as if the words of these books of the Bible are true.
Yeah.
And I think that hurts us, um, not just in like pastors abusing sexually abusing
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Like it hurts us in severe credibility ways, right? But that mostly hurts us from people outside looking in. But like this is like an internal shaming of women perpetually, right?
Right.
And it's like the women in this church getting beat down over and over and over again, and the men saying, like, "Oh, I didn't realize I was abusing you," you know?
And I think, your statement of like women are being here used as a bargaining chip. I think that's really like what makes me uneasy and weird about this.
Yeah.
Just because, it's not like the way it was reported, at least it's not like, like the women were like making some sort of a push to like organize and try to make a change within a system that needs to be changed. It is this male pastor, just using his wife and saying, well, I'm going to call her a teaching pastor.
Yeah.
It's like her agency isn't put in the forefront here. And maybe that's just what bugs me so much about it.
Yeah. Or if she did have agency, it was super poorly, like,
It wasn't well
documented and
reported.
reported.
Yeah.
Then once again, the Christian media, once again, like, terrible headlines that should be unforgivable.
Yeah. Like we should just have like an entire episode about just headlines that suck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this will be interesting to watch this one play out. I'm pretty sure that you and I are both on the side of women are to be cherished at all levels of leadership in the church and to be appreciated and respected. And so I'll be interested to see how this works out, especially if another wave of sexual abuse allegations start cropping up